His secretary took a bullet meant for the Mafia boss, and only then did he understand what she had been trying to tell him for years. In Chicago, powerful men are taught to watch the door count their enemies and trust no one. Vincent Calloway had mastered all three. But every morning while he built an empire on fear, Emma Reed stood 3 steps behind him, carrying his schedule, reading every room, and quietly noticing the dangers he was too proud to see. Then, beneath the chandeliers of a charity gala, one sharp crack split the music, and Emma stepped between Vincent and death. This is not just a story about sacrifice. It is about the people we overlook, the love we mistake for duty, and the moment regret arrives too late. Stay to the end. Like the video and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Before her blood touched the museum floor, before Vincent Calloway learned how helpless power could feel, there had been 6 quiet weeks in which Emma Reed tried to warn him. Chicago was still dark when Vincent's sedan stopped beneath the private entrance of Calloway Tower. The building rose above Wacker Drive in black glass and steel, its upper floors fading into winter fog. Snow from the previous night had turned gray along the curb. The river below looked like a strip of cold metal. Vincent stepped from the car without waiting for the driver. His charcoal overcoat moved in the wind. 2 security men followed him through the lobby. The guard at the desk straightened. The receptionist lowered her voice. Everyone in the building knew the sound of Vincent Calloway entering a room. On the 48th floor, Emma Reed was already at her desk. His coffee waited inside his office, black, no sugar, placed to the right of 3 folders. A bottle of water stood beside it. 2 pain relievers rested near the final report. Vincent removed his coat and looked at the tablets. "What are those pain relievers?" "I know what they are." Emma continued reading from her tablet. "Then we are making excellent progress this morning." He looked at her. Most people lost their balance when Vincent stared at them. Emma only turned a page. "I do not have a headache. You will after the 9 o'clock meeting. My 9 o'clock is with Marshall and Crane." It was. Vincent stopped. "What did you do? I moved it. You changed a $6 million negotiation without asking me." "Yes." "Why?" "The restaurant closed its rear entrance for construction. The temporary exit opens into an alley without cameras. And the other party requested the private room closest to that alley after the construction began." Vincent studied her face. She did not look frightened or pleased with herself. She simply waited for him to catch up. "Did Marcus confirm a threat? No. Did anyone make contact? No. So you moved the meeting because you disliked a door. I moved it because someone else liked it too much." Silence settled over the office. Far below, headlights moved beside the river. "Where is the meeting now?" Vincent asked. "Conference room 3. "Why 3? "Conference room 2 has a blind corner near the service entrance." He reached for the coffee. It was exactly the right temperature. "Put the meeting back at 9. "It is already at 9. Emma returned to her tablet. Vincent took a drink and walked into his office without thanking her. Thank you was a phrase he used in public speeches and formal letters. It rarely survived the distance between his thoughts and his mouth. By 8, the tower had filled with lawyers, analysts, brokers, assistants, and men wearing expensive watches while pretending they were not afraid of the person on the top floor. Publicly, Vincent controlled one of the largest private real estate and logistics companies in the Midwest. His name appeared on hospitals' apartment towers, shipping warehouses, and charity funds. Newspapers called him disciplined, private, and brilliant. The men who entered through his private elevator after midnight called him boss. That elevator opened into a windowless room, absent from every official floor plan. Inside it, contracts became territories. Deliveries became shipments, and partners became families. Vincent had inherited part of the organization from his uncle and taken the rest from men who underestimated him. He never shouted and never threatened twice. His restraint made him more frightening. He kept rules that allowed him to believe he was different from the men he opposed. No narcotics near schools. No women moved through Calloway routes. No children used as leverage. No violence against uninvolved families. He called those rules discipline. Emma called them limits. She knew enough about his private world to understand what he was. She also knew enough not to ask questions that would force him to lie directly to her. One evening, she entered the private meeting room carrying a file. Marcus Shaw stood near the wall with his arms folded. 3 senior men sat around the table. Vincent was preparing to sign an order concerning a dock supervisor named Thomas Bell. Emma placed another document over the signature line. Every man in the room became still. Vincent looked at the file, then at her hand. Move it. No. Marcus lowered his eyes, hiding the beginning of a smile. Vincent leaned back. What is this Thomas Bell's employment record? I did not ask for it. He has worked at the docks for 11 years. His wife is receiving cancer treatment. They have 2 children. A captain across the table frowned. Miss Reed, this is not an executive matter. Emma did not look at him. Vincent's voice grew quieter. Are you questioning my decision? I am making sure you understand who else will pay for it. The silence that followed felt heavier than anger. Thomas Bell had been accused of sharing a shipment schedule, but the evidence came from one frightened informant who had disappeared before Marcus could question him. Vincent opened the file. What do you suggest? Suspend his access. Audit his accounts. Watch his contacts. Do not send men to his home. The captain scoffed. And if he runs, then you will know he is guilty. Vincent looked at the captain. Did I ask you? The man lowered his eyes. Vincent tore the original order in half. Marcus, investigate quietly. Marcus nodded. Emma collected the torn page. As she reached the door, Vincent said, You interrupted a closed meeting. She looked back. You left the door unlocked. Marcus waited until she was gone before smiling. Vincent did not smile until several seconds later. Emma had worked for him for 5 years. She had arrived as a temporary assistant during a merger hired to organize 3 weeks of meetings no one else could control. On her second day, she corrected a number in a property report that would have cost the company nearly $2 million. On her fourth, she discovered that a visiting investor had used 2 different signatures. On her sixth, she informed Vincent that his driver was drinking during lunch. By the end of the month, the investor had been arrested, the driver had been replaced, and Emma had a permanent office outside Vincent's. Everyone knew that nothing reached him without passing through her. Still, most people rarely looked at her. Emma wore navy gray and black. Her hair was usually pinned at the back of her neck. She owned 1 silver watch, 1 leather briefcase, and several pairs of small earrings that looked almost identical. She spoke softly enough that men had to stop talking to hear her. Men who mistook quietness for submission usually discovered their error when their meetings disappeared from Vincent's calendar. At a board dinner in the Gold Coast, an older executive handed Emma his empty glass without looking at her. Another bourbon. Before she answered, Vincent spoke from the head of the table. She is my executive secretary, not your waitress. The man apologized to Vincent, not to Emma. Later in the car, Vincent said, You should have corrected him. Emma closed her folder. Men like that only hear corrections from men like you. Vincent wanted to disagree. He could not. Her protection rarely looked dramatic. It looked like a changed reservation, a missing name on a guest list, a driver replaced before dawn, a question asked twice because the first answer came too quickly. She moved Vincent to another hotel floor after his suite number appeared in an internal event document. She removed a donor from a private reception after discovering that his identification belonged to a dead man in Ohio. She changed a dinner reservation made under the name of a man connected to the rival Rourke organization. At the end of January, she stood in the underground garage while Marcus inspected one of Vincent's vehicles. The service record says the brake line was replaced last month, she said. Marcus crouched near the front wheel. It was. The invoice lists a part the manufacturer stopped using 2 years ago. Marcus looked up. The mechanic disappeared before noon. A second inspection found the brake line almost cut through. That evening, Marcus leaned against Emma's desk while she packed her files. You should have worked in security. I enjoy chairs. You barely use yours. I enjoy knowing it exists. Marcus smiled. Vincent should double your salary. He already pays me too much. Then triple it. Emma looked through the glass wall. Vincent stood alone near the window, one hand in his pocket. The city spread beneath him. Money is not the problem, she said. Marcus followed her gaze. No, he replied. It usually is not. Vincent heard only the final sentence as he entered the outer office. What is not the problem? Emma lifted her briefcase. The schedule. Good. Then stay. We are not finished. It was nearly 10 when snow began erasing the buildings across the river. 4 junior employees were still waiting for permission to leave. Emma arranged company cars before the train stopped running, then returned to Vincent's office. "You are still here," he said. "So are you. I own the building. That does not make the weather respect you." They worked until midnight. Emma ordered chicken soup when she realized he had not eaten all day. "I am not hungry," Vincent said. "I keep records of disasters. Your eating habits qualify." He ate while reading. Emma pretended not to notice. Her life outside the office existed in rooms Vincent had never seen. She lived alone in a modest apartment in Lincoln Park, 3 floors above a bakery. Her furniture was simple, her bookshelves were crowded. A photograph of her father stood beside her bed. Detective Samuel Reed had taught his daughters to watch hands before faces, exits before decorations, and reflections before turning around. Danger often wore a familiar smile, he used to tell them. When Emma was 19, Samuel uncovered payments linking 2 police officers to an organized crime crew. 3 days before he was scheduled to testify, his car went through a barrier near Lower Wacker Drive. The official report called it an accident. Emma never believed it. Her younger sister Claire moved to Wisconsin and built a life far from Chicago. Emma stayed. On the anniversary of their father's death, Claire called while Emma sat at her kitchen table. "You cannot spend another year protecting a man who does not know who you are." Emma pressed the phone closer. "He knows who I am. He knows what you do for him." Emma looked at her father's photograph. "That is not the same thing." "No, it is not." "Then why are you still there?" Emma thought of Vincent changing the order concerning Thomas Bell. She thought of the rules he kept when no one forced him to keep any. She thought of every quiet decision that revealed a man different from the one Chicago feared. "Because he is not what everyone thinks." Claire was silent. "Is he what you hope?" Emma had no answer. A week later, Emma entered the parking garage after another late meeting and heard someone crying. A janitor named Luis Ortega stood beside an old sedan holding a hospital letter. His 12-year-old son needed heart surgery. The insurance company had denied part of the procedure. Vincent read the letter. How much? Luis lowered his eyes. $48,000. Vincent handed it back. "Go home." Luis looked confused. The next morning, the hospital account was paid through an anonymous foundation. Emma placed the receipt on Vincent's desk. "You were not supposed to see that," he said. "Then use a fund I do not reconcile. It was not company business. No, it was human business. Vincent signed a contract. Do not make it sentimental. You paid $48,000 for a child you have never met. It will reduce employee turnover." Emma watched him build the excuse one piece at a time. "Why are you afraid of anyone knowing you did something kind?" His pen stopped. Kindness becomes a performance when it has an audience, or it becomes an example. "I am not interested in becoming an example." Emma stood. "No, you are afraid of becoming one." She left before he answered. That afternoon, Vincent ordered a review of every denied medical claim involving a Calloway employee. He made certain the announcement came from Human Resources. Emma knew anyway. Every November on the anniversary of Vincent's mother's death, 12 white lilies appeared in his office. No card, no message. Almost no one knew the date. This year, Vincent asked Marcus if he had sent them. Marcus denied it. His housekeeper denied it. The florist said the order had been paid in cash. When Emma entered with his afternoon schedule, Vincent was standing beside the flowers. "Do you know who sent these?" She glanced at the vase. "No card. Never. Maybe the person does not want credit. That would make them unusual. Maybe that is why you remember them." Vincent looked at her more carefully. "Did you send them?" Emma met his eyes. "Your call with Springfield begins in 4 minutes." She placed the folder on his desk and left. He could have followed her. He could have asked again. Instead, he turned toward the city and let the question remain unspoken. 3 days later, an ivory envelope arrived from the Hawthorne Foundation. The annual charity auction at the Lakefront Museum of Art drew senators, judges, corporate donors, and men whose legitimate businesses existed only to hide their real ones. Vincent's name appeared at the top of the donor list. Emma reviewed every guest. One name near the bottom stopped her. Charles Vale. No company, no title. A donation of $250,000. She searched corporate records, property databases, charity filings, and court documents. Charles Vale did not exist. The foundation confirmed that Elliot Vance had added him as a private donor. Emma opened the museum floor plan. The East Gallery connected the ballroom to a service stairway and a loading dock. 3 camera angles left gaps along the corridor. A temporary catering station blocked the closest public exit. She took the file to Marcus. This guest does not exist. Marcus scanned the page. Half the people attending use holding companies. Then the holding company should exist. He donated $250,000. That makes him wealthy. It does not make him real. Marcus leaned back. Emma, this is security work. Then secure it. His eyes narrowed. You organize calendars, and my calendar has identified more threats than your cameras this month. For a moment, neither spoke. Marcus looked at the museum plan again. What do you want? Remove veil. Add guards near the east stairway. Verify every member of the catering staff. That requires Vincent's approval. Emma gathered the papers. Then I will ask him. Rain covered the windows when she entered Vincent's office. She placed the guest list and floor plan on his desk. I recommend canceling your appearance at the Hawthorne auction. Vincent continued reading. Why, one guest has no verifiable identity. Elliot added him. The East Corridor has blind spots. The loading dock schedule changed yesterday, and 2 catering credentials were approved without photographs. That earned his full attention. Marcus knows yes, and he is investigating. Then why cancel because the problems may not be separate? Vincent leaned back. Do you have proof of a threat? No evidence of a weapon. No confirmed connection to the Rourkes. Not yet. Then you have a feeling. I have a pattern. Vincent closed the folder. You cannot protect me from every shadow in Chicago. Emma's expression remained calm. I am not worried about the shadows. What are you worried about? The people standing where the light makes them look innocent. Rain tapped against the glass. Vincent approved an additional guard near the East Gallery and ordered Marcus to check the staff again. Emma did not move. That is sufficient, he said. No, it is comfortable. His gaze hardened. Be careful. I am trying to make you careful. I will not cancel a public event because a name on a list makes you uneasy. It is not only the name. There are transfers connected to Elliot's office that I am still reviewing. Vincent became still. What transfers? Construction payments? Why was I not informed? Because I do not have proof. You were prepared to cancel my appearance without proof. A canceled appearance can be repaired, and an accusation against my chief financial officer, that depends on whether I am wrong. Vincent stood. Give Marcus everything you have when I know what it means. That was not a request. Emma's jaw tightened. If I give you an incomplete accusation, Elliot may disappear before we understand the whole operation. You think I cannot control myself. I think you have spent years making certain no one believes you can. The words settled between them. Vincent stepped closer. Emma did not retreat. Finally, he said, You are attending the gala. I assumed so. You remain beside Marcus. No. His eyes narrowed. No, I remain where I can see you. That is Marcus's responsibility. Marcus watches threats, and you, Emma, picked up the floor plan. I watch what everyone else decides is too small to matter. She reached the door before Vincent spoke. Emma. She stopped. For once, he had used her first name without thinking. She turned slowly. Vincent looked at her, then at the storm beyond the windows. Why do you care this much? The question caught her unprepared. For 1 second, the calm left her face. The office phone rang. Emma opened the door. Your conference call is waiting. She returned to her desk with the museum plans held against her chest. Vincent remained beside the window watching rain blur the city he believed he controlled. On his desk, the unknown name sat beneath the white reflection of the lilies. The next morning at 6:10, Emma was already waiting with his coffee, a revised security map, and a list of questions no one else had thought to ask. The questions on Emma's list did not persuade Vincent to cancel the gala. They did, however, change the way he watched her. That morning, she placed his coffee beside the revised museum map and opened a folder filled with staff photographs, delivery records, vehicle assignments, and handwritten notes. Vincent sat behind his desk, studying the circles she had drawn around the East Gallery. You were here before 5, he said. 5:20. That is not better. I did not say it was. He picked up the security map. 3 exits had been marked in blue. 2 service doors were marked in red. Beside the east stairway, Emma had written 11 seconds. What does this mean? The camera feed lags behind the central system. How long 11 seconds? That is specific. I timed it. Vincent looked at the dark circles beneath her eyes. You went to the museum last night. I attended the final security walkthrough. Marcus did not mention that. Marcus did not know. Vincent set the map down. You entered an unsecured building alone. There were guards. Guards you do not trust. I trust patterns more than people. His expression hardened. That answer does not make what you did intelligent. Emma closed the folder. No, it makes it necessary. For a moment, neither of them moved. The city beyond the windows was pale beneath the morning clouds. Traffic gathered along the river. Somewhere far below, a siren passed and disappeared. Vincent rested one hand on the map. You are not leaving my sight tonight. Emma's eyes lifted. That may interfere with my ability to do my job. Your job is not to search service corridors. My job is whatever keeps your calendar from becoming an obituary. He almost smiled, but the feeling passed too quickly. Stay near Marcus. I will stay where I can see you. That was not permission to negotiate. It was not a negotiation. Before Vincent could answer, Marcus entered without knocking. We have a problem in the garage. Emma was already moving. The replacement sedan waited beneath the tower with its engine running. Vincent's regular driver had called in sick less than an hour earlier. The agency had sent another man in his place. Emma stood several yards from the vehicle while Marcus checked the driver's identification. The man appeared calm, mid-40s, dark suit, clean shoes, no wedding ring, a small scar beneath his left ear. Vincent approached. Emma raised one hand. Do not get in. The driver glanced toward her. Marcus examined the identification card. What is wrong with it? The address, Emma said. The driver's expression did not change. Marcus read it aloud. 1730, North Halstead. That building was demolished last year. The driver opened his mouth. Emma continued. The licensed photograph was taken 5 years ago. The card was issued 3 months ago. The agency supervisor who approved him has not answered 2 calls. Marcus reached inside his coat. The driver moved first. He shoved the door into Marcus, turned, and ran toward the garage exit. One of the guards chased him between 2 rows of cars. Vincent stepped forward, but Emma caught his sleeve. Stay here. The words came sharply. He looked down at her hand. Emma released him at once. A black motorcycle roared from behind a concrete pillar. The driver climbed onto the rear seat, and the motorcycle disappeared up the ramp before the guards could block it. Marcus returned, breathing hard. We have the plate. It will be stolen, Emma said. Marcus looked at her. You knew he would run. I knew he was watching the exit before he answered you. Vincent stared toward the empty ramp. For several seconds, the garage was silent except for the ticking engine of the abandoned sedan. Emma turned to him. Cancel the gala. This time, he did not dismiss her immediately. We have 200 guests expecting me. Then disappoint them. The Hawthorne Foundation is announcing 3 major grants based on our contribution. They can announce them without you. If I disappear after an incident in my own building, every rival in Chicago will know. Emma stepped closer. Let them think you are cautious. They will think I am afraid. You should be. Marcus looked between them. Vincent's voice became cold. Fear is useful only when no one sees it. Emma held his gaze. That is the kind of sentence men say before someone closes their coffin. The guards around them became very interested in the concrete floor. Vincent should have been angry. Instead, he looked at the abandoned car and understood that she had just prevented him from entering it. All vehicles are replaced, he said to Marcus. Every driver is verified by 2 separate sources, double the outer perimeter at the museum. Emma's jaw tightened. You are still going? Yes. Then we enter through the north doors. We avoid the east gallery. No unplanned meetings. No private conversations outside the ballroom. Vincent nodded once. It was the closest thing to surrender he knew how to give. The new sedan arrived shortly after sunset. Chicago moved past the windows in wet reflections. Towers of gold and white stretched across the black surface of the river. Rain tapped against the roof. Emma sat across from Vincent, reviewing the evening schedule. She wore a silver-gray dress beneath a dark coat. Her hair was pinned higher than usual, exposing the line of her neck. The leather portfolio rested on her knees. Vincent noticed her fingers turning the silver watch around her wrist. You are nervous, I am thinking. You usually do that without injuring yourself. She stopped touching the watch. Marcus sat in the front passenger seat speaking quietly into his radio. Vincent looked out at the passing lights. Why do you stay? Emma's hand became still. At Calloway Holdings with me. The question sounded different inside the dark car. Personal, unprotected. Emma studied his face as though searching for the trap inside it. Vincent was not certain why he had asked. Perhaps it was the false driver. Perhaps it was the memory of her hand on his sleeve. Perhaps he had begun to understand that a salary did not explain the way she watched every doorway. Before she could answer, Marcus turned from the front seat. We are approaching the museum. Emma looked toward the rain-covered window. The moment closed. The Lakefront Museum of Art stood beside the water-white stone and glass glowing against the night. Cameras flashed beneath the entrance canopy. Guests climbed from limousines while reporters called names through the rain. Marcus's team cleared the north entrance. Vincent stepped from the sedan. The crowd reacted at once. Reporters leaned over the barriers. Donors turned. Security guards touched their earpieces. Vincent buttoned his tuxedo jacket. Emma emerged behind him with the portfolio held against her side. 3 steps separated them. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Calloway, are you concerned about rumors of a federal investigation?" Vincent continued walking. Rumors are what people use when facts are too expensive. A few reporters laughed. Emma did not. Inside the entrance hall, she paused beside a wall of security monitors. Camera 12 flickered. The East Service corridor disappeared for less than a second. Then the image returned. Emma checked the timestamp. 11 seconds behind. She turned to Marcus. Camera 12 reset. He examined the feed. It is working. It is delayed. How long 11 seconds? Marcus spoke into his radio, ordering a technician to inspect the system. A museum coordinator hurried toward them. "Mr. Calloway, the foundation director, is waiting." Vincent began walking. Emma remained at the monitors. He looked back. Emma. She joined him, but her eyes stayed on camera 12 until the screen disappeared behind a marble column. The ballroom glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. A string quartet played near the central staircase. Waiters moved between guests carrying champagne. Politicians smiled beside men whose names never appeared in public records. Vincent entered the room and its rhythm shifted around him. A senator approached first, then a judge, then the owner of a shipping company whose trucks had crossed Calloway territory for 10 years without being stopped. Emma remained near Vincent's shoulder, speaking quietly when needed. Councilman Hayes. His daughter was accepted to Northwestern. Vincent shook the councilman's hand. "Congratulations to your daughter." The man brightened. Vincent received the gratitude. Emma was already studying the next face. For half an hour, nothing happened. The guards remained in position. The camera system stayed online. Every guest passed the second identity check. Vincent began to relax. Emma did not. She noticed a waiter near the west wall wearing handmade Italian shoes beneath his catering trousers. He carried an empty tray through the room without collecting glasses. A man near the balcony touched his left sleeve every few seconds. One museum employee wore his identification badge upside down. Daniel Mercer checked his phone twice, then looked toward the east gallery. Emma whispered to Marcus, the waiter near the sculpture. Marcus followed her gaze. "What about him?" "His shoes." Marcus glanced at her. "You are concerned about shoes. He is carrying an empty tray and watching the security rotation." Marcus spoke into his radio. Before a guard could approach, the waiter disappeared behind a service door. Emma moved after him. Vincent caught her wrist. "No." He went through the staff entrance. "Marcus will handle it." She looked at his hand around her wrist. Vincent released her. "You said I should remain where you could see me," she said. "And you are. You are making that difficult." A foundation director called Vincent toward the stage. The orchestra stopped. Vincent stepped beneath the lights and delivered a brief speech about schools' neighborhood investment and the obligations of private wealth. Emma watched from the edge of the crowd. The audience applauded. During the applause, she saw Elliot Vance near the east doors. He was speaking to the waiter with the expensive shoes. The waiter slipped something into Elliot's hand. Elliot closed his fingers around it and stepped away. Emma crossed the ballroom. "Who was that?" Elliot smiled. "A museum employee. He is wearing a catering uniform. Then perhaps he works for the caterer. What did he give you? Elliot raised both hands. Nothing. A narrow strip of white paper protruded from his cuff. Emma reached for it. Elliot moved back. You are forgetting your position. No, I am remembering yours. His smile disappeared. Careful, Miss Reed. Emma's eyes shifted past him. The waiter was gone. Daniel Mercer approached Vincent near the stage. There is someone asking to speak with you privately. Vincent's expression cooled. Who? He would not give me a name. Then he does not get a meeting. He says it concerns the Rourke organization. Vincent looked toward Marcus. Daniel lowered his voice. He is waiting in the East Gallery. Emma heard the words from across the room. She moved quickly. No. Daniel turned. Vincent's gaze settled on her. Emma stopped beside him. The East Corridor is not clear. Marcus touched his earpiece. My men checked it 5 minutes ago. Camera 12 is delayed. The technician found no tampering. He found no visible tampering. Daniel looked confused. The gallery is 20 feet away. Emma faced Vincent. Give Marcus 5 minutes to clear it again. Vincent checked the clock above the ballroom doors. The auction was about to begin. More than 200 guests were watching him. We do not have 5 minutes. Then do not go. The answer came too quickly and too firmly. A few nearby conversations quieted. Vincent's face changed. No employee ordered him to do anything. Emma lowered her voice. Please. The word carried more fear than all her warnings. For half a heartbeat, Vincent considered staying. Then Daniel said, if this man truly represents Rourke, letting him leave may cost us more than 5 minutes. Vincent turned toward the east doors. Marcus comes with us. Emma stepped in front of him. Vincent. He looked at her. She had never used his first name in public. I said Marcus comes with us. He walked past her. Emma closed her eyes for 1 second. Then she followed, 3 steps behind. The music faded when the gallery doors closed. The East Corridor was lined with antique mirrors and glass cases containing silver jewelry. Rain moved down the tall windows overlooking the lake. Marcus walked ahead. Daniel remained beside Vincent. Emma watched the reflections. The corridor appeared empty. That was what frightened her. No museum staff, no guests, no unidentified messenger waiting with information. Marcus reached the far corner. There is no one here. Daniel checked his phone. He said he would wait. Emma looked into the nearest mirror. At first she saw only Vincent Daniel and the pale corridor behind them. Then a shadow moved on the mezzanine above. A dark sleeve, a hand gripping the railing. A brief metallic shape emerging from beneath a coat. Emma's portfolio slipped in her fingers. Vincent turned at the sound. What is it? She looked directly into his eyes. There was no time to explain. The first shot sounded like a hard crack against glass. Emma moved. She stepped between Vincent and the mezzanine. The impact lifted her shoulder and turned her body. The leather portfolio fell open. Pages scattered across the marble floor. Vincent caught her before her head struck the stone. Marcus drew his weapon and ran toward the stairs. Daniel dropped behind a display case. A second shot struck the wall above Vincent. He pulled Emma behind a marble column and pressed his hand against the blood spreading across her dress. Emma. Her face had gone pale. Look at me. Her fingers closed weakly around his lapel. You are safe, she whispered. Do not speak. The second exit. What? Her eyes moved toward the ballroom doors. Vincent followed her gaze. Elliot stood at the far end of the corridor. He looked at Emma on the floor. He did not appear shocked. Then he turned and disappeared through the ballroom. Emma's grip loosened. Emma. Her eyes closed. Vincent pressed harder against the wound. Blood moved between his fingers. Marcus shouted through his radio. Guards ran toward the loading dock. Guests screamed beyond the doors. Someone called for an ambulance. Vincent heard only Emma's shallow breathing. A security officer appeared. A vehicle is leaving the second exit. We can stop it if we move now. Marcus looked at Vincent. The order was waiting. Vincent looked down at the woman in his arms. Let it go. Marcus froze. Vincent, get her to a hospital. The shooter may be in that vehicle, and she may die on this floor. Vincent lifted Emma into his arms. Her head rested against his chest. Blood darkened the front of his shirt. He carried her through the ballroom. The crowd moved aside. Men who had spent years fearing him watched him whisper her name as though it were the only word he remembered. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Inside, a paramedic cut the fabric around Emma's wound. Vincent sat beside her. "Sir, move back. I am staying. We need space." Vincent did not move. The paramedic looked directly at him. "If you want her alive, let me work." Vincent released Emma's hand. It was the first command he had obeyed in years. The ambulance raced along Lakeshore Drive. Red light moved across Emma's face. A monitor sounded beside her. The paramedics called out numbers Vincent did not understand. He knew the value of buildings companies, judges, and men. He did not know how much blood a body could lose before hope became cruelty. At St. Catherine Medical Center, Dr. Lena Ortiz met them at the trauma entrance. She asked about allergies, medications, previous surgeries, and emergency contacts. Vincent had no answers. "You are her employer?" the doctor asked. "Yes. Family." He looked toward Emma as the medical team pushed her through the doors. "No." Dr. Ortiz's expression softened, but her voice remained firm. "We will tell you when we know more." The doors closed between them. Vincent stood beneath the fluorescent lights with Emma's blood drying on his hands. Marcus arrived 20 minutes later. The shooter escaped. "We found the position and one discarded weapon." The loading dock cameras were altered from inside the museum. Vincent stared at the closed trauma doors. "Find Elliot. We will." Marcus waited. Normally, Vincent would have described exactly what should happen when they found the traitor. Instead, he said, "Bring me the truth." 3 hours later, Dr. Ortiz returned. The bullet damaged her lung and caused severe blood loss. "We controlled the bleeding." Vincent stood. "When can I see her? She is not awake. When will she wake up?" The doctor held his gaze. "I cannot promise that she will." The corridor seemed to narrow around him. Marcus spoke from somewhere behind him, but Vincent heard nothing. Through a small window in the intensive care doors, he saw Emma surrounded by machines, her face almost hidden by tubes and white sheets. He placed one blood-stained hand against the glass. For 5 years, she had known every detail of his life. He did not know the name of the person she would want beside her if she died. He did not know where she went on Sundays. He did not know what frightened her when she was alone. He did not know why she had stayed. At dawn, Vincent sat outside intensive care with his hands clasped between his knees. For the first time, he wondered who Emma Reed had been when she was not busy saving him. At dawn, Vincent sat outside intensive care with his hands clasped between his knees. For the first time, he wondered who Emma Reed had been when she was not busy saving him. The hospital corridor had no respect for power. Its walls were pale, its chairs were hard. Its clocks moved with deliberate cruelty. Nurses passed without lowering their voices. Doctors answered questions only when they had answers. No one cared how many buildings carried the Calloway name. No one cared that men across Chicago waited for Vincent to make decisions. Inside the room beyond the glass, Emma remained still. A machine breathed for her. Another measured the rhythm of her heart. Vincent had always hated machines he could not control. Marcus returned with 2 cups of coffee and placed one beside him. Vincent did not touch it. "You should change your shirt," Marcus said. Vincent looked down. Emma's blood had dried across the front of the white fabric. It had darkened near his cuffs and beneath his hands. "No, people are watching. Let them." Marcus sat in the chair across from him. For a while, neither man spoke. A child slept across 3 seats at the far end of the corridor. His father sat beside him with one hand resting on the boy's coat. Near the elevators, an elderly woman moved prayer beads through her fingers. A nurse stopped to place a blanket around her shoulders before continuing toward another room. Vincent watched them. These people had no bodyguards, no private elevators, no judges returning their calls. Still, they knew how to sit beside someone without treating the moment like a negotiation. Marcus leaned forward. "We identified the weapon." Vincent's eyes remained on the glass. It was purchased in Indiana under a false name. The serial number was removed, but the barrel modifications match a supplier used by the Rourkes. Used by them or connected to them. Connected. That is not the same thing. "No. Keep looking." Marcus studied him. "We also recovered the museum access records." Camera 12 was delayed manually from a terminal inside the administrative office. Who had access? 6 employees, 2 contractors, the museum director, and anyone with an executive event credential. Elliot had one. Yes. Vincent finally looked at him. Find every payment he made in the last year. Every hotel room, every private flight, every account tied to his family. We already started. Start again. Marcus nodded. Then he hesitated. Emma warned us. Vincent looked back toward her room. Yes, I dismissed the camera delay. So did I. Marcus lowered his voice. That is not what I meant. It is what happened. The words settled between them. Marcus had spent 20 years learning when Vincent wanted silence. This time he chose not to give it to him. You trusted Elliot because he had been useful for 12 years. Vincent's jaw tightened. And you doubted Emma because she had no proof. She had instincts. She had a pattern. Vincent heard Emma's voice in his memory. I am not worried about the shadows. I am worried about the people standing where the light makes them look innocent. He closed his eyes. Leave me the reports. Marcus placed a folder on the empty chair. Vincent, what if she wakes up she is going to blame herself? For what? For not stopping it sooner. Vincent turned toward him. Marcus stood. You know she will. Vincent looked through the glass again. Emma had spent 5 years carrying dangers no one had asked her to carry. Even now, unconscious and wounded, she would find a way to make the failure her own. No, Vincent said. Marcus paused. She will not carry this. The doctor allowed him into Emma's room shortly after 7. Vincent washed his hands twice before entering. The blood was gone from his skin, but he could still feel it beneath his fingernails. Dr. Lena Ortiz stood near the foot of the bed reading a chart. She is stable, she said. The word should have brought relief. It did not. Stable means she is not getting worse. It means her condition is not changing rapidly at this moment. When will the breathing tube come out when she can breathe safely without it? When will that be? Dr. Ortiz closed the chart. Mr. Calloway, I understand that you are accustomed to direct answers. I am accustomed to people having them. Medicine does not become more certain because you are uncomfortable. Vincent held her gaze. Most people softened their voices around him. Dr. Ortiz did not. She looked toward Emma. The bullet damaged the upper portion of her left lung. We controlled the bleeding, but she lost a significant amount of blood. We are also watching for swelling and infection. Could she hear me possibly? Would it matter? It might matter to her. The answer was not scientific enough for Vincent. It was still the only useful thing anyone had given him. Doctor. Ortiz stepped towards the door. You can stay for 15 minutes. I will stay longer. You will stay for 15 minutes. Vincent looked at her. She looked back. He almost admired her. When the door closed, he moved to the chair beside Emma's bed. Without her dark suits, her tablet, and her careful posture, she looked unfamiliar. Her face was pale beneath the hospital lights. A bruise had begun to form near her collarbone. Medical tape held lines against her skin. Vincent sat with his hands resting on his knees. He had addressed rooms filled with hostile men. He had spoken at funerals, political dinners, and negotiations where one wrong word could cost millions. He did not know what to say to a woman who could not answer. The monitor marked the silence. Finally, he leaned closer. You were right. Emma did not move. I trusted you 5 minutes too late. His voice sounded wrong in the room. Too low, too honest. You told me not to go into that corridor. He looked at the floor. I thought you were afraid. A bitter breath left him. I did not understand that you were afraid for me. He reached toward her hand, then stopped before touching it. For years he had taken things from people without asking. Their time, their obedience, their silence. He did not want to take even this. His fingers closed against his palm. I need to know who did this. The machine breathed for her. I need to know why you knew. His throat tightened. And I need you to wake up and tell me what I missed. The door opened. Dr. Ortiz stood there. Time. Vincent rose. At the threshold he looked back. Emma remained exactly as she had been. The absence of change felt like violence. By 9, Calloway Tower was filled with rumors. Employees lowered their voices when Vincent crossed the lobby. Security officers watched every entrance. News crews gathered across the street reporting that an unnamed woman had been injured during an attempted attack on a prominent Chicago businessman. Vincent entered through the private elevator. He wore a clean black shirt beneath his coat, but he had not changed the expression on his face. Marcus waited outside Emma's office. "The police have searched her apartment." Vincent stopped. "Why, she is the primary witness. She is unconscious. They were looking for information related to the attack. Did they find anything? Nothing they considered relevant." Vincent looked through the glass wall. Emma's chair sat empty. Her gray sweater hung over the back. A mug rested beside the keyboard. One corner of a yellow note protruded from beneath her monitor. He opened the door. The office smelled faintly of paper coffee and the lavender soap Emma kept in the lower drawer. Nothing had changed since the previous afternoon. Her calendar remained open to the gala schedule. A line beside Vincent's departure time had been underlined twice. "Confirm East Corridor clearance before arrival." Vincent touched the words. The handwriting was small and controlled. He had seen it on thousands of notes without ever considering the hand that formed it. Marcus remained near the doorway. "We copied her files for investigators." "Leave me, Vincent." "I said, leave me." Marcus closed the door behind him. Vincent removed his coat and placed it carefully over the chair opposite Emma's desk. He sat in her chair. From this side of the glass, his office looked far away. The distance surprised him. He had always believed Emma existed near him. One room away, one call away, one instruction away. From her desk, he looked like a man behind glass, a man at the center of a life she maintained without ever entering it. Vincent opened the top drawer. Spare reading glasses rested beside a box of paper clips. A small container held tea bags, pain relievers, and bandages. Several protein bars were tucked behind a notebook. He picked one up. The flavor was almond. He hated almonds. Then he saw the note wrapped around it. "For Mr. Calloway if he skips lunch again." Vincent stared at the handwriting. He opened another drawer. Inside were employee transportation schedules, emergency contact forms, and a folder marked Medical Assistance Proposals. The first page described a company fund for workers facing treatment costs not covered by insurance. A handwritten note ran along the margin. "He will say it is too expensive. Remind him what Luis's son cost and ask whether he regrets paying it." Vincent turned the page. There were proposals for counseling, paid leave after violent incidents, overnight transportation, and scholarships for children of hourly workers. Each document had been revised more than once. Some contained comments from Human Resources. Not a current priority. Budget concerns. Executive approval unlikely. Emma had not discarded any of them. She had kept rewriting them. Vincent found a yellow note beneath the folder. "Ask Vincent when he last slept." He sat back. The question felt more intimate than any declaration. His eyes moved toward the gray sweater. Emma had worn it during late nights when the office became cold. He remembered seeing it around her shoulders while she read financial reports, but he could not remember when she had purchased it. He did not know her favorite restaurant. He did not know what music she listened to while driving. He did not know whether she preferred the lake in winter or summer. He knew only what she did for him. A white lily stood in a narrow vase on the windowsill. Vincent rose slowly. He crossed the office and touched one of the petals. The flower was beginning to fade at the edges. He remembered the lilies that arrived every November. No card, no name. 12 white flowers placed beside his mother's photograph. He had asked Emma once. She had not answered. His eyes moved toward the locked lower drawer. Marcus had given him the keys taken from Emma's personal belongings at the hospital. Vincent held the smallest key between his fingers. For several seconds he did nothing. The drawer was private. Emma was not there to stop him. That should have made opening it easier. Instead, it felt like standing before a closed door in someone else's home. He inserted the key. Inside was a small recorder, 2 envelopes, and a flash drive. One envelope carried the name Claire Reed and an address in Wisconsin. The other was addressed to Vincent. His first name was written by hand. Not Mr. Calloway. Not Vincent Calloway. Only Vincent. He took the envelope to the desk. It was unsealed. The paper inside had been folded once. "Vincent, there are days when I believe you are becoming the man you could be. There are other days when I wonder whether staying beside you only makes it easier for you to remain the man you are. I know what people call you. I know which parts of your empire are built in darkness. Caring about you does not make those things right. I stayed because I have seen you choose mercy when no one was watching. I stayed because I believe power does not have to destroy everything it touches. But one day you will have to decide whether you want to be feared or whether you want to be known. I cannot make that choice for you. Emma Vincent read the letter again. Then a third time. It was not the confession he expected. It did not ask him to love her. It did not forgive him. It did not pretend that the good things he had done erased the lives shaped by his choices. She had seen both men, the one who could order fear into another person's home, the one who quietly paid for a child's surgery and hid the receipt. She had not confused mercy with innocence. That honesty hurt more than accusation. Vincent lowered the letter. The recorder sat beside his hand. He pressed the first button. Emma's voice filled the small office. Meeting notes for January 9th. Move the Marshall dinner to Calloway Tower. The requested restaurant has an unsecured rear entrance. The recording ended. He selected another. Mr. Calloway touched the back of his neck twice during the morning briefing. Move the afternoon legal review if possible. He will deny the headache until he cannot read. Vincent closed his eyes. Another recording. Send the white lilies on November 14th. No card. He does not like anyone knowing he still visits his mother's grave. His hand tightened around the device. The next note was quieter. Luis's son came through surgery. Vincent will pretend the payment was an operational decision. It was not. He still has compassion. He treats it like evidence that must be hidden. Vincent stopped the recording. The office seemed smaller. He remembered every year the flowers had arrived. The first bouquet had appeared 2 months after Emma began working for him. He had assumed an old family friend had remembered. It had been her. She had learned the date without asking him to speak about it. She had sent flowers without forcing him to acknowledge the grief. She had known him in places where he had never allowed her to stand. Vincent played another note. This one began with several seconds of silence. Personal reminder, do not send. Emma exhaled. I keep asking myself why I stay. Claire asks too. I tell her Vincent is not what people believe. That answer is becoming harder to defend. A chair creaked in the recording. I know he is capable of kindness. I know he notices suffering even when he pretends he does not. But sometimes I think he uses the good inside him as proof that the rest does not matter. Vincent leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk. Emma's voice continued. I do not want to save him from consequences. I want him to stop believing consequences are the only language people understand. The recording ended. Vincent stared through the glass at his empty office. For 5 years he had thought Emma stayed because the work challenged her. Then he thought she stayed because he paid her well. The truth was more painful. She had stayed in conflict. Every day she had balanced the man she hoped he could become against the man he continued choosing to be. He pressed another file. The date was 3 days before the gala. If something happens, check the read folder on the encrypted drive. Elliot's transfers connect to a shell company called North Meridian. I still need proof that he knows who controls it. Emma paused. If Vincent finds this first, he will act before he understands the full network. A faint sound entered the recording, perhaps traffic outside her apartment. He will call it justice. It will be anger. Vincent stopped breathing for a moment. She had predicted him perfectly. He picked up the flash drive. Marcus returned after Vincent called. A technical analyst arrived with him and connected the drive to an isolated laptop. The first folder contained financial records. Payments moved through construction accounts, consulting firms, and property maintenance contracts. The amounts were small enough to avoid immediate attention, but together they formed a steady line toward North Meridian Holdings. Emma had traced the company through 3 states. Its final owner was hidden behind a private trust. A photograph in the second folder showed Elliot Vance leaving a restaurant near O'Hare with Patrick Rourke, nephew of Vincent's oldest rival. Another image showed Elliot entering a hotel under a false name. There were copies of Vincent's private schedule sent to an encrypted account. The dates matched locations where suspicious vehicles had appeared. The restaurant with the rear alley, the hotel room Emma changed, the dock inspection, the museum gala. Marcus stood behind Vincent. She had all of this. She had pieces. There is enough here to take Elliot. Vincent opened the final document. Emma had written a short paragraph at the top. Elliot may be planning to trade Vincent's access routes for protection. Do not confront him until every schedule leak is identified. If I am wrong, I destroy a loyal man. If I am right, Vincent will kill him before we learn who else is involved. Marcus read the note. She was protecting Elliot. No. Vincent's voice was quiet. She was protecting the truth. Marcus folded his arms. Elliot arranged the attack. We do not know that. We know he sold the schedule. We know he shared information. We do not know whether he knew the exact plan. Does that matter? Vincent looked at him. It mattered to Emma. Marcus stepped away from the desk. She is lying in intensive care because she waited for certainty. No, she is lying there because we ignored her without it. Marcus's expression changed. The words struck both men. Vincent closed the laptop. Find Elliot. Marcus nodded. Alive. Marcus stared at him. Vincent. Alive. He put her in that bed, and killing him will not bring her out of it. That has never stopped you before. The room became still. Vincent looked down at Emma's letter. No anger entered his voice. That is why she was afraid to tell me. Marcus said nothing. Bring him to me alive, Vincent repeated. I want every name, every account, every person who knew. Marcus moved toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back at Emma's empty chair. She changed the way you give orders. Vincent did not answer. At the hospital that evening, Dr. Ortiz informed him that Emma's condition had not improved. She is not declining, the doctor said. Right now, that matters. Vincent entered the room carrying white lilies. He placed them near the window. The flowers looked too alive beside her. He sat and took the letter from inside his coat. I found this. His voice was softer than before. You would probably say I had no right to read it. He unfolded the page. You would be correct. Emma did not move. Vincent looked at the words again. You said you could not make the choice for me. He placed the letter on the table. I think I hated choices because they made me responsible for what happened after. The machine continued breathing for her. I built rules and called them principles. I spared some people and called it mercy. I told myself that made me different. He leaned back. But you knew better. His eyes moved across her face. You always knew better. He reached for her hand. This time he touched it. Her skin was warm. The warmth nearly broke him. I thought loyalty came from money, protection, fear. I believed people stayed because leaving me cost too much. His thumb moved slowly over her knuckles. I never considered that someone might stay because she saw a man worth saving. He swallowed, or that she might be wrong. The words left him exposed. There was no one in the room to punish him for it. I forgot your birthday last year. The memory arrived without warning. Emma had worked until 11 that night. A small cake box had sat beneath her desk when Vincent asked her to cancel dinner and remain for another meeting. She had said nothing. You never reminded me. His voice weakened. You reminded me of everything else. He looked down at her hand. I never asked where you went on Sundays. I never asked why you hated Lower Wacker. I never asked about the photograph on your desk because I thought privacy meant refusing to notice. He breathed slowly. I accepted every cup of coffee, every changed route, every warning. I treated your care like part of the building, something that would remain because I expected it to. Vincent bowed his head. I am sorry. The apology did not change the monitor. It did not open Emma's eyes. It did not remove the bullet wound from her body. Still, he continued. I am sorry that you had to become brave because I wanted to remain careless. He held her hand between both of his. I am sorry that you learned the cost of my life before I learned the value of yours. A nurse entered quietly to check the intravenous line. Vincent did not release Emma. The nurse adjusted the medication and left without speaking. Outside the window, evening lights began appearing across Chicago. Vincent remembered the question he had asked inside the sedan. Why do you stay? He had thought the answer would tell him something about her feelings. Now he understood how selfish the question had been. The question should have been different. What has staying cost you? He leaned closer. If you wake up, I will not ask you to forgive me quickly. His voice trembled once, then steadied. I will not use one good decision to erase everything that came before it. He looked at the white lilies. "I will give you a reason to believe staying was not your greatest mistake." Emma's fingers remained still within his hands. Vincent sat beside her until the city disappeared into darkness. Near midnight, Marcus called. "We found Elliot's plane." Vincent looked at Emma's face. "We're a private airfield outside the city. Is he there?" "Not yet." Vincent rose from the chair. He placed Emma's hand carefully on the blanket. For a moment he stood over her, unwilling to leave. Then he bent close enough for his forehead to touch her fingers. "I know who sent the flowers now," he whispered. His eyes closed. "I should have known years ago." When Vincent stepped into the corridor, Marcus was waiting at the elevators. The hospital doors opened. Cold air entered from the lobby each time someone passed through. Marcus handed Vincent his coat. "Are you ready?" Vincent looked back through the glass. Emma lay beneath the quiet machines carrying wounds meant for him and truths he had refused to hear. He put on the coat. "Bring me to Elliot." The elevator carried Vincent away from Emma's hospital room and toward the man who had helped put her there. For most of his life, that distance would have sharpened his anger into something useful. Anger had always been simple. It gave him direction. It turned doubt into orders and grief into punishment. Men had built entire reputations around how quickly Vincent Calloway answered an insult. But as the elevator descended, he heard Emma's recorded voice instead. "He will call it justice. It will be anger." Marcus stood beside him, watching the numbers above the doors. "The car is waiting. How many men are at the airfield?" "4 of ours. 2 watching the road. Elliot has not arrived yet. And the police, not involved." Vincent looked at his reflection in the polished metal doors. His face revealed nothing. It was the same face he had worn at negotiations, funerals, and meetings where another man's future was decided before the coffee cooled. Yet beneath the calm, he could still feel Emma's hand in his. Alive. Warm. Silent. "Elliot comes back alive," Vincent said. Marcus did not answer immediately. "You already told me. I am telling you again." The elevator doors opened into the hospital lobby. Rain struck the glass entrance. Reporters stood beyond the covered drive held back by hospital security. Marcus handed Vincent his gloves. "If Elliot resists, stop him. And if stopping him requires more." Vincent put on the gloves one finger at a time. "Then make certain it does not." Marcus studied him. "You are asking men trained to end threats to suddenly become careful." "No. I am reminding them that control was always supposed to be the point." They crossed the lobby. Cameras flashed through the glass. A reporter shouted Vincent's name as he entered the waiting sedan. He did not look back at the hospital. If he did, he was not certain he could leave. The private airfield lay west of Chicago, beyond the last dense rows of buildings and warehouse lights. Rain became sleet as the sedan moved farther from the lake. Vincent sat in silence. Marcus reviewed the surveillance photographs on a tablet. Elliot's chartered plane had filed a flight plan for Montreal under the name Edward Vale. The name was close enough to Charles Vale to feel like arrogance. The aircraft waited inside a hangar with its lights on. A pilot had arrived 40 minutes earlier. Elliot's 2 private guards were already there. He planned this before the gala, Marcus said. Vincent looked at the photograph of the plane. He planned an exit. "You think he did not know about the shooting? I think Emma wanted proof." Marcus set the tablet aside. "Emma is not here." The words cut more deeply than Marcus intended. Vincent turned toward him. "No, she is not." Marcus looked out the window. "That is why this ends tonight." Vincent's voice remained quiet. "No, that is why we do not make another mistake." The sedan left the main road and entered the airfield through a maintenance gate. The hangars appeared as dark shapes beyond the fence. Runway lights glowed through the sleet. Vincent's men waited inside an empty equipment building. Their coats were wet. Their weapons were hidden but ready. A security monitor showed the entrance road. At 11:18, a black sport utility vehicle appeared at the gate. Marcus checked his watch. "That is him." The vehicle moved slowly toward the hangar. Vincent watched it stop beside the plane. Elliot stepped out first. He wore a dark overcoat and carried a leather travel bag. His hair was damp from the weather. One of his guards opened the rear compartment and removed 2 metal cases. Elliot looked toward the runway. He did not appear frightened. He looked impatient. Vincent had known him for 12 years. They had attended weddings together, buried associates together, built companies from numbers Elliot understood better than anyone. Vincent remembered Emma's note. "If I am wrong, I destroy a loyal man." She had still been willing to consider the possibility that Elliot was innocent. Even after months of suspicious transfers, she had protected him from an accusation she could not yet prove. Elliot had repaid that caution by selling her schedule. Vincent walked out of the equipment building. Marcus and the others followed. The sleet struck Vincent's coat and melted against his face. Elliot saw him halfway to the hangar. He stopped. His guards reached inside their coats. Marcus's men appeared from both sides of the runway. "Hands where we can see them," Marcus called. The guards hesitated. Elliot looked at Vincent. "Do as he says." The men lowered their hands. Marcus's team disarmed them and moved them against the hangar wall. Elliot remained beside the black vehicle. "I heard she survived surgery," he said. Vincent continued walking. That should count for something. Vincent stopped several feet away. The wind pushed sleet across the concrete between them. "You used a false driver." Elliot's expression did not change. "I do not know what you are talking about. You changed the museum access records. I approved a donor who did not exist." Elliot gave a tired smile. "Half our donors do not exist." Emma traced North Meridian. The smile disappeared. Vincent watched the exact moment Elliot understood how much had been discovered. "You searched her office," Elliot said. "She left enough to find you." Elliot looked toward Marcus, then toward the plane. No path remained open. "I can explain the transfers." "Then explain them, not here." Vincent stepped closer. "This is the only place you have left." Elliot's jaw tightened. The construction accounts were being watched. "I moved funds because federal investigators were getting close." "You moved them to a company controlled by Patrick Rourke." "I moved them through Patrick Rourke. That is not better. It kept the money out of federal hands and put my schedules into his." Elliot looked at the wet runway. For the first time, uncertainty entered his face. Vincent understood. The money had begun as theft. The betrayal had come later. "How much?" Vincent asked. Elliot said nothing. "How much did you take? 7 million?" Marcus made a quiet sound behind Vincent. Elliot continued before anyone could speak. "It was not supposed to become this." "What was it supposed to become? A temporary arrangement with the Rourkes. They found the account. Patrick told me he would bring everything to you unless I gave him access. So you sold him my movements. I gave him locations, public events, meetings with security, the restaurant." Elliot looked away. The hotel. Silence. The docks. Vincent moved closer. The museum. "I did not know there would be a shooter." Vincent struck him. The blow turned Elliot's head and sent him against the side of the vehicle. Marcus did not move. Elliot pressed one hand to his mouth. Blood appeared between his fingers. "You expect me to believe that I was told they wanted a private conversation. They sent a false driver to my building. That was not part of my arrangement." "You approved Charles Vale. He was supposed to carry a message. He carried a weapon." "I did not know." Vincent grabbed Elliot's coat and pulled him away from the vehicle. "Emma saw you speaking to the waiter. He told me the meeting point had changed. You watched her fall." Elliot's face tightened. Vincent saw the corridor again, Emma turning in his arms, her blood spreading across her dress. Elliot standing at the ballroom doors without surprise. Vincent tightened his grip. Marcus stepped closer. One word would be enough. No one at the airfield would question it. No body would be found. No witness would speak. Elliot seemed to understand the same thing. "You kill me," he said, breathing hard, "and you lose the names." Vincent's grip did not loosen. "What names? The people inside your companies. The museum contractor. 2 drivers. Someone in the city licensing office. Who I want protection." Marcus laughed without humor. "You are asking him for protection. I am asking for a way to stay alive." Vincent stared at Elliot. For years, men had asked him for mercy only after running out of lies. He had rarely granted it. Emma's letter returned to him. "You will have to decide whether you want to be feared or whether you want to be known." Vincent released Elliot. He stepped back. "Take him inside." Marcus looked at him. "Vincent, inside." The men moved Elliot into the equipment building and tied his hands to a metal chair. For the next 2 hours, Elliot gave them names, account numbers, meeting locations, and passwords. Every answer was recorded. Some of the information implicated the Rourkes, some implicated museum employees and private contractors. Some led back to Calloway Holdings. One account contained payments authorized years earlier by Vincent himself, not for the assassination, for bribes, false inspections, city contracts obtained through pressure and money. Elliot watched Vincent read the records. If those files reach federal investigators, they will not stop with me. Vincent closed the folder. I know. They will take the company apart. The parts that survive will be the parts worth keeping. Elliot stared at him. This is because of her. No. Vincent's answer came without hesitation. She forced me to look at the choice. She did not make it for me. Elliot leaned back against the chair. You think cooperation makes you clean? No. Then what do you think it makes you? Vincent looked at the recorded confession. Responsible. Before sunrise, Elliot was transferred to the custody of a federal attorney through a former judge Marcus trusted. Vincent provided copies of the evidence and retained one complete record for Emma. He did not request immunity. His lawyers objected the moment they learned what he had done. By 7 in the morning, 3 of them were waiting in his office. You have exposed yourself to conspiracy charges, one said. You turned over financial records without negotiating protection. You may lose control of Calloway Holdings. Vincent removed his coat and placed it over a chair. Then negotiate what can be negotiated, and what cannot I answer for it? The oldest lawyer stared at him. Your entire life has been built around preventing that sentence. Vincent looked through the glass wall at Emma's empty desk. Yes. Marcus entered after the lawyers left. He closed the office door. The captains are gathering at the club. They can wait. They believe Elliot should have been brought to them. He was not theirs. He betrayed the organization. He nearly killed Emma. That is why they expected you to act. Vincent turned. I did act. You gave him to the government. I gave them evidence. Evidence that includes us. Evidence that includes me. Marcus crossed the room. Men will leave. Let them. They may not leave quietly. Then they were never loyal. They were comfortable. Marcus shook his head. You cannot rebuild this world in one night. No. Vincent picked up Emma's medical proposal. But I can stop defending it. The meeting at the Calloway Social Club began before noon. The room had dark wood walls, heavy curtains, and photographs of men who had controlled parts of Chicago before Vincent was born. 12 senior captains sat around the long table. Frank Delaney, the oldest among them, spoke first. You handed Elliot Vance to federal agents. Yes. You gave them records. Yes. Frank leaned forward. Records connected to our businesses, to crimes committed through those businesses. Several men shifted in their chairs. One struck the table with his palm. We did not come here to hear legal language. Vincent sat at the head of the table. No, you came because you are afraid. The room became still. Frank narrowed his eyes. You disappeared after a woman was shot, then returned speaking like a priest. Vincent's expression did not change. Choose your next words carefully. Frank ignored the warning. You are changing the rules because you fell in love with an employee. The truth of the statement moved through the room. Vincent did not deny it. I am changing the rules because the old ones placed her in a hospital bed. Our enemies will see weakness. Our enemies entered one of our events, altered our cameras, replaced a driver, and placed a weapon above my head. Vincent looked around the table. They did not succeed because we were strong. They succeeded because we were careless. Frank pointed toward him. You gave away one of our own. Elliot sold access to all of us. He should have answered here, to men who would have killed him before hearing half the truth. That is our law. Vincent's voice lowered. Then our law failed. No one spoke. Vincent opened a folder. These operations close today, the unlicensed transport routes, the payment system through the construction unions, every account Elliot used, every contract dependent on city bribes. A captain near the window stood. That will cost millions. Yes, it will destroy our influence, some of it. What do we receive in return? Vincent looked at him. The chance to stop pretending survival excuses everything. Frank laughed once. You think she will wake up and thank you? The question entered the room like a blade. Vincent met his eyes. She may never wake up. His voice remained steady. That does not change what is right. Frank leaned back. Something in Vincent's answer unsettled him more than a threat could have. Vincent continued. Anyone who wants to leave may leave. Anyone who stays follows the new rules. No retaliation against employees who cooperate with investigators. No pressure against witnesses. No threats against families. And if federal agents come for you, Marcus asked from the wall. Vincent looked at him. I go with them. Silence settled over the table. The men were not looking at a weak leader. They were looking at a man they no longer understood. That frightened them more. 3 captains left before the meeting ended. 2 others demanded payment and control of their territories. Vincent agreed to terms that cost him more than pride. By evening, rumors moved through Chicago that Calloway's organization was breaking apart. Markets reacted. Investors called. Board members requested emergency meetings. Vincent returned to Calloway Tower and ordered Human Resources, Security, and Legal Counsel into the main conference room. Marcus presented a protection plan focused on Vincent's residence office and transportation. Vincent read the first page and closed it. This protects me. That is the purpose, Marcus said. No, that was the old purpose. He placed Emma's proposals on the table. The new plan included transportation for employees working after dark, verified drivers' emergency medical training, anonymous threat reporting, independent security audits, paid leave after violent incidents, and protection for employees who reported criminal conduct. A board member looked at the projected cost. This is excessive. Vincent turned toward him. Compared to what? We already meet every legal requirement. Legal requirements placed a receptionist 2 floors below us in an unverified car last month because her shift ended after midnight. The board member frowned. How is that relevant to the attack? It is relevant to whether we believe some lives deserve more protection because their offices are higher. Marcus looked at the document. Since when do administrative employees receive the same security resources as you? Vincent's answer came quietly. Since one of them proved my life was not worth more than hers. No one argued again. The Employee Wellness Center was approved. So were the Scholarship Fund Medical Assistance Program, Overnight Transportation Service, and Workplace Safety Council. One executive suggested naming the entire program after Emma. Vincent refused. She is not dead. The room fell silent. And she is not an idea. You will not turn her into one without asking her. Instead, they named one fund the Reed Initiative. Its first principle came from a note found inside Emma's desk. No employee should become invisible simply because their work is quiet. Vincent returned to the hospital that night. Dr. Ortiz met him outside intensive care. She developed an infection. He stopped. What does that mean? It means her body is fighting more than the original injury. Can you treat it? We have started antibiotics. That was not my question. Dr. Ortiz's expression remained calm. Yes, we can treat it. I cannot promise how she will respond. Vincent looked through the window. Emma's room was dim. The machines cast small reflections across the glass. Can I see her for a few minutes? He entered, carrying fresh white lilies. The older flowers had begun to wilt. He replaced them carefully, cutting each stem with scissors a nurse had left beside the sink. Then he sat beside Emma. I found Elliot. The machines continued their steady work. He was trying to leave the country. Vincent took her hand. I wanted to kill him. He did not soften the confession. I wanted him to feel afraid before he died. I wanted him to understand what it was like to watch someone lose blood because of his choices. He looked down at her fingers. I did not. The words did not make him proud. They made him tired. I gave his confession to federal investigators. I gave them the accounts too. He paused. Some led back to me. Rain moved against the hospital window. The lawyers say I may lose the company. His thumb passed over the side of her hand. Marcus says the organization may divide. Vincent looked at her face. You told me I had to choose whether I wanted to be feared or known. His voice grew quieter. I do not know whether I deserve to be known by you. He leaned forward, but I made my choice. Emma did not move. Vincent visited every morning and every night. He learned the names of the nurses. He brought coffee for the night staff. He read Emma the newspaper, leaving out stories about the investigation until a nurse told him she would probably be angry if she woke and discovered he had edited the news. After that, he read everything. He told her about ordinary things. Your assistant reorganized the supply cabinet. You will consider it a personal betrayal. The scholarship program was approved. Luis's son sent you a card. He drew me with more hair than I have. Marcus has checked every driver file twice. He says you destroyed his confidence. Some nights, Vincent read from one of the novels found in Emma's apartment. Other nights, he simply spoke. I miss arguing with you. I miss being told that my schedule is impossible. I miss the way you wait 3 seconds before correcting me as though you are giving me time to discover the mistake myself. He held her hand. I miss you in every room. The infection worsened on the 4th night. Doctors moved quickly in and out. Vincent remained in the corridor while nurses changed medication and adjusted the machines. Near midnight, Dr. Ortiz told him Emma had responded to the new treatment. The danger had not passed, but her condition had stopped declining. Vincent returned to the chair beside her bed. A storm moved over Chicago. Lightning illuminated the room for brief moments. The city beyond the window disappeared behind rain. I used to think walking ahead meant I was leading, he said. Emma lay still beneath the blankets. Now I know I was only making certain I never had to see who I left behind. He lifted her hand and rested it against his forehead. If you wake up, I will not ask you to follow me. His breath shook. I will ask whether I may walk beside you. For several seconds, nothing changed. Then Emma's index finger moved against his palm. Vincent froze. The movement was small enough to be imagined. He lifted his head. Emma, her finger moved again. The monitor changed rhythm. Vincent pressed the call button without releasing her hand. Footsteps approached in the corridor. Emma's eyelashes trembled beneath the low hospital light. Vincent leaned closer, afraid even to breathe. Emma, he whispered. Emma's fingers tightened around Vincent's for one brief, impossible moment. Then the room filled with motion. Nurses entered first. Dr. Ortiz followed, issuing calm instructions as she checked the monitors and called Emma's name. Vincent stepped away from the bed only when a nurse placed a hand against his chest. Give them room. He moved toward the wall. Emma's eyelashes trembled again. Her face tightened as though she were trying to rise through deep water. Emma, Dr. Ortiz said, "Can you hear me?" Her fingers moved against the blanket. Vincent watched without breathing. The doctor shone a light across Emma's eyes, checked her response, then turned toward the medical team. She is responding. The sentence nearly brought Vincent to his knees. He had heard men confess with weapons pressed against their skin. He had watched buildings collapse under controlled explosions. He had stood beside graves without allowing himself to cry. 2 words from a doctor broke through every defense he had built. She is responding. Emma did not fully wake that night. She opened her eyes for seconds at a time, confused by the light, the machines, and the voices around her. Each time Dr. Ortiz asked simple questions. Each time Emma drifted away before she could answer. Vincent remained near the window. He did not touch her again without permission. At dawn, the doctors removed the breathing tube. Emma slept for several more hours. When she finally opened her eyes, the winter sun had turned the hospital room pale gold. Vincent was sitting beside the window with an unread newspaper in his hands. Emma looked at the ceiling first, then at the tubes beside her bed, then at Vincent. He saw recognition move slowly across her face. He stood but did not approach. Her lips parted. No sound came out. Vincent poured water into a paper cup and placed the straw near her mouth. Small sip. Emma drank, then closed her eyes against the pain. Vincent waited. When she looked at him again, her voice was rough and barely audible. What day is it, Thursday? Her brow tightened. The date. February 27th. She stared at him. You missed the Halpern acquisition meeting. Vincent laughed. The sound surprised him. It surprised Emma, too. I canceled it. Her eyes narrowed weakly. You canceled a meeting, yes. Should I call a doctor? There are several nearby. The corner of her mouth moved. It was not quite a smile, but it was enough. Vincent lowered himself into the chair. He wanted to tell her everything at once, that Elliot had been found, that the evidence had been delivered, that Calloway Holdings was changing, that the white lilies had always mattered, that he loved her. Instead, he said, You are safe. Emma looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, So are you. The words carried them back to the museum floor. Vincent's smile disappeared. You should not have done that. Her gaze remained steady despite her exhaustion. There was no time. There should have been someone else. There was not. You could have died. Emma closed her eyes. So could you. That is different. Her eyes opened again. No, The answer came softly, but it stopped him. Vincent looked down at his hands. For most of his life, he had assumed his survival mattered more because more people depended on him. Employees, associates, families, entire businesses. Emma had rejected that belief with one word: no. Her life had not become less valuable because fewer men feared losing it. Dr. Ortiz entered before Vincent could answer. "She needs rest." Emma looked at him. "You heard her." Vincent almost smiled again. "I will return later. That sounds like a threat. It is a promise." He left the room with the newspaper still unopened. During the following days, Emma's awareness returned faster than her strength. She asked for names, dates, and details. She wanted to know who had been injured at the gala. She wanted to know whether Daniel Mercer had been involved. She wanted to know what happened to the waiter, the camera technician, and the false driver. Vincent answered every question except the ones the investigators had not yet resolved. He did not simplify the truth. Daniel had been used. The message that drew him toward the East Gallery came through an account Elliot controlled. The waiter had carried access codes and instructions. The shooter belonged to a crew connected to Patrick Rourke. The false driver had been hired to test whether Vincent's security could be breached before the gala. Elliot had provided the schedules. Emma listened without interruption. "And Elliot?" she asked. Vincent sat across from her. "In federal custody." Her expression changed. "You gave him to the authorities?" "Yes." "Alive, yes." Emma studied him as though she expected to find some hidden qualification. He confessed he gave names, accounts, and locations. "What did you give them?" Vincent did not look away. "Everything connected to the conspiracy. That is not what I asked." He understood. "Some of the records lead back to me." Emma remained silent. "Bribes," Vincent continued. "False inspections, contracts obtained through pressure, financial records connected to operations I approved. You could be charged. Yes, you could lose the company, parts of it." Her eyes moved toward the window. "Did you do this because of me?" Vincent considered the answer carefully. She had spent years watching him turn emotion into justification. He would not do it again. "You forced me to see the choice." Emma looked back at him. "But you did not make it for me," he said. "I gave them the evidence because it was right. Even if you never spoke to me again, I would still do it." Emma's eyes searched his face. Vincent remained still. For once, he did not need her approval to make the sentence true. She looked away first. "You should have done it years ago." "Yes." The agreement unsettled her. She had expected a defense. Vincent had none. Recovery made Emma impatient. Her mind returned before her body obeyed. She hated needing help to sit upright. She hated that walking 10 steps left her breathless. She hated the weakness in her left arm and the deep ache beneath her shoulder. The first time a metal tray fell in the hallway, she flinched so violently that the heart monitor accelerated. Vincent was beside her before the nurses arrived. Emma held one hand against her chest. "I am fine." "You are not. I know." The honesty stopped him. He stood close enough to help, but did not touch her. After several breaths, Emma looked at him. "You can sit down." Vincent obeyed. She stared at the doorway. "I keep seeing the mirror." He said nothing. "The reflection," she continued. "The hand above us. The gun." Her fingers closed around the blanket. "I knew before the shot. Maybe 1 second. Maybe less. You moved before I did. You did not see it. No, I should have made you stay in the ballroom. You tried. I should have tried harder." Vincent leaned forward. "No." Emma turned toward him. "You warned me. Marcus warned me. The evidence was there. I chose pride because I did not want 200 people to think I was afraid." His voice grew quieter. "You are not carrying that failure." Emma's mouth tightened. "I was responsible for your schedule. You were not responsible for my arrogance." The words remained in the room. Emma looked down at her hands. Vincent had apologized beside her bed while she was unconscious. Now he understood that apology was not a single confession. It was the willingness to remain present when the person he hurt finally spoke. "I was afraid every day," Emma said. Vincent became still. "Not only at the museum. Every time you entered a room believing everyone else should carry the risk for you. Every time you refused to change a route because it might look weak. Every time Marcus found a threat and you answered it by becoming harder." Her voice shook not from weakness alone. I spent 5 years wondering which warning you would ignore last. Vincent accepted each word. I am sorry. I do not need another apology. What do you need? I need you to understand that caring about you did not make any of it easier. He nodded. I understand. No, you are beginning to. The correction should have offended him. Instead, he said, You are right. Emma looked frustrated. That answer does not fix it. I know. She turned away. Vincent remained in the chair. He did not defend the policies he had changed or the evidence he had surrendered. None of it purchased forgiveness. None of it erased the years Emma had spent afraid. After a long silence, she asked, Are the lilies from you? Vincent looked toward the vase beside the window. Yes, they are too fresh. I replace them every 3 days. You hate flowers. I was wrong. About flowers, about many things. Emma closed her eyes, but this time a small smile appeared. Physical therapy began the following week. A therapist helped Emma stand beside the bed. Her knees trembled beneath her weight. Vincent waited near the door. Emma took one step, then another. Her face tightened with pain. Vincent moved forward. Do not. He stopped immediately. Emma gripped the support rail. I need to do some things without you saving me. The words could have been cruel. They were not. Vincent stepped back. Tell me when you want help. Emma nodded. She completed 4 steps before sitting again. The next day she walked 8. By the end of the week she could reach the window. Vincent walked beside her without touching her. He adjusted his pace to hers. The first time she noticed, she said nothing. The second time she looked at him. You usually walk faster. I usually walk alone. You had an entire security team. That is not the same thing. She looked ahead. No, it is not. Several weeks later, Emma left the hospital. Vincent offered his penthouse because it had private security, a medical room, and an elevator large enough for equipment. Emma refused. I'm returning to my apartment. It has 1 entrance and no security desk. It has a bakery downstairs. That is not a defensive advantage. It is when I want bread. Vincent arranged discreet security outside the building, then informed her exactly where the guards would be placed. She approved 2 and rejected 3. He accepted her decision. In her apartment, Emma discovered that Claire had filled the refrigerator and placed clean sheets on the bed. Vincent stood near the doorway, looking at the books, photographs, and small objects that made up a life he had never bothered to imagine. On the mantel stood the photograph of Samuel Reed. Vincent moved closer. Your father, Emma nodded. He was a detective, I know now. You read the police report. Yes, the report was wrong. Vincent looked at the photograph. I know that too. Emma studied him. What did you find? Payments from men connected to an organization my uncle worked with. The officers your father exposed were protected by people close to my family. The room became silent. Vincent continued before she could speak. I found no evidence that my uncle ordered his death. I found enough to know he benefited from the silence afterward. Emma's face lost color. You knew nothing about this before, no. And now I gave the records to the same attorney handling Elliot's case. Emma looked toward her father's photograph. For years, she had carried suspicion without proof. The truth did not bring relief. It brought a different kind of grief. Vincent remained near the door. I am sorry. Emma wiped at one eye with the heel of her hand. You did not kill him. No, but you inherited the world that protected the people who did. Yes. She looked at Vincent. And you stayed in it. Yes. He gave her no excuse. Emma's anger softened into exhaustion. I need to be alone. Vincent nodded. He opened the door. Before leaving, he said the guards will remain outside. They will not enter unless you call. Emma looked at him. Thank you. It was the first time she had thanked him since waking. Vincent closed the door quietly behind him. The legal consequences arrived slowly, then all at once. Federal investigators seized records from Calloway Holdings. Several executives resigned. 3 construction contracts were suspended. News channels debated whether Vincent was cooperating out of conscience or strategy. Some called him a reformer. Others called him a criminal trying to purchase redemption. Vincent refused every interview. His lawyers negotiated an agreement that required him to surrender control of several companies, testify against Elliot and Patrick Rourke, and accept responsibility for financial crimes connected to his organization. He would remain free during the investigation, but freedom no longer felt like something he possessed. It felt conditional. earned one day at a time. Emma returned to Calloway Tower 3 months after the shooting. She did not come as Vincent's secretary. A board meeting was waiting upstairs, but Vincent remained in the lobby. When the sedan stopped outside, he crossed the marble floor before security could reach the doors. Emma stepped inside wearing a dark blue coat. Her left arm still moved carefully. A thin scar disappeared beneath her collar. The lobby became quiet. Employees looked up from reception desks and security stations. Emma noticed the changes immediately. A transportation coordinator stood beside a display showing late shift routes. Security officers greeted employees by name. A new medical response station had been installed near the elevators. On the wall behind reception, silver letters displayed a sentence. No one who protects this place should ever be invisible inside it. Emma stopped. You changed my note. Vincent stood beside her. I improved the punctuation. You changed one comma. It was an important comma. She looked at him. The smile came slowly. Vincent showed her the wellness center, the counseling offices, and the scholarship department. Employees moved through bright rooms that had once been used for private executive meetings. At the end of the corridor, a glass door carried the words, Read Initiative. The lettering was small and simple. Emma touched the glass. You used my name, only after Claire approved it. You asked my sister she is more frightening than Marcus. That means she likes you. I did not receive that impression. Emma looked through the glass at the employees preparing the office. You actually listened. Too late, yes, but finally. She turned toward him. Finally is only valuable if it lasts. It will. You cannot know that. Vincent considered the words. No, but I can choose it again tomorrow. Emma held his gaze. That answer seemed to matter. They entered the office. A desk waited near the window. It did not face Vincent's tower suite. It faced the river. Emma walked around it. What is this, your office? I did not agree to return. I know. You prepared an office anyway. I prepared an option. She glanced at him. You are learning dangerous language. Vincent placed a folder on the desk. It contained authority over the company's safety programs and independent budget, and the power to report directly to the oversight board. Emma read the first page. I will not work as your secretary. I am aware. I will oppose you publicly when necessary. I expect it. I choose my own staff. Yes. And my budget. Vincent hesitated. Emma raised an eyebrow. He corrected himself. You propose your budget. Better. She closed the folder. I need time. Take it. Vincent moved toward the door. Emma watched him. You are not going to argue. I have a meeting. You have ignored meetings before. Only the important ones. She laughed. The sound followed him into the corridor. Later that evening, they stood together near the windows in Vincent's office. The Chicago River reflected the city lights below. Snow moved slowly between the buildings. Vincent removed the watch he had worn for 15 years and placed it on the desk. Emma noticed. What are you doing? I spent most of my life measuring what everything cost. Time, money, loyalty, fear. And now Vincent looked at her. Now I am trying to understand what matters when nothing can be purchased. Emma's expression softened, but she remained cautious. Vincent stepped closer. He did not touch her. I love you. The words were simple. No rehearsed speech, no promise large enough to hide inside. Emma's breath caught. Vincent continued. I loved you before I understood enough to call it love. I loved your voice outside my office. I loved the way you challenged me when everyone else agreed. I loved every ordinary thing I was too blind to value. He looked at her scar, then back into her eyes. But you do not owe me love because you saved my life. I know. You do not owe me forgiveness because I changed. I know, and you do not have to stay. Emma looked toward the river. I spent 5 years waiting for you to see me. Regret tightened Vincent's face. She looked back at him. I will not spend the next 5 years making it easy for you. A quiet smile touched his mouth. I would be disappointed if you did. Emma stepped closer. I love you too. Her hand rested against his chest. But love is not permission to become careless again. It will not be. And I am never carrying your coffee. That may be the most painful consequence so far. Emma laughed. Then she kissed him. The kiss was careful at first, a question rather than a claim. Vincent touched her face only after she leaned closer. For once, he did not lead. When they separated, a meeting notification sounded from the screen on his desk. Emma glanced at it. "You are late. Yes, you should go." Vincent opened the office door. For years, he would have entered the hallway first while Emma followed 3 steps behind. This time he stopped. He held out his hand. Emma looked at it. "Is this necessary?" "No." "Then why are you doing it?" "Because I am asking." She placed her hand in his. They entered the hallway together. Employees looked up as they passed. Not because Chicago's most feared man was walking through the building, because the woman who had once followed him in silence now walked at his side. There was no distance between them. People later said the bullet changed Vincent Calloway. They were wrong. The bullet only forced him to stop. Emma had been changing him for years. With every warning he ignored, every kindness he accepted without gratitude, and every ordinary morning she chose to return. She had not saved him because he deserved it. She had saved him because she believed he could still become someone who might. The rest belonged to him. At the elevator, Vincent reached toward the control panel. Emma pressed the button first. He looked at her. She raised an eyebrow. "You are not in charge of everything." The doors began to close. Vincent looked down at their joined hands. "No," he said. "Not anymore." The elevator carried them downward through the tower, away from the office where she had once watched him through glass. The woman who had walked 3 steps behind him had taken a bullet meant for his heart. It had taken nearly losing her for Vincent to understand that she had been protecting it all along.